Hey John, well I'm grateful for the opportunity to get in together today. I don't know if there's something here for you, but after a little bit we'll find if there's a need. Gather a little bit of information and we'll get together another time and go into more detail. Okay, but for now, sit back, relax, there's nothing to buy. A little bit about the company, John. Federal Financial Group is a national company representing several institutions with assets of over hundreds of billions of dollars, some of which have been in business for over 120 years. Okay, what we do is we teach people how to become financially independent. Okay, and we define financial independence as when the return on the money that you have put away replaces the income you take off of a business or salary. Okay, and at that point it's over. You don't have to work. You may choose to work, but you don't have to. Okay, that's financial independence. And wouldn't you like to know how to get there the soonest? That's where I'm headed. What I'd like to do here, John, is talk a little bit about some of the challenges we face today, and then talk about the solutions. All right. Well, first off, let's look at the past 10 years. Incomes have risen, yes, but there's no way that incomes have kept up with housing or a lot of things. All right. And what happens is people tend to get into debt. Lack of security steps in. Poor spending habits, poor saving habits ensue, and retirement, big problem. Okay, and here's my point. If you took 100 people turning 65 today, you lined them out outside there in the hallway there. Out of the 100, only 2 are financially independent. Only 2. What about the other 98? Well, they fall into 3 categories. 1, they rely on family. 2, they rely on charity. And 3, and this is the most of them now, majority of them, they still work. Look at Walmart. How many people at Walmart are over the age of 65? That's the reality. And you know, as a matter of fact, and this is kind of sad, the other day I was eating at Wendy's over there on 41, and it was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was sitting there and I looked over and there was this elderly lady. Not surprising, you see more and more of that these days, but she was there. She had to be around 75, give or take. But as I was about to take a bite of my chicken sandwich, I look over in the corner of my eye and I see this lady getting down on one knee, and she's got a putty knife in her hand, and she's scraping gum or something off of the tile floor. Okay, now that's not her hobby. She's out of money. All right, and that's getting worse. We're seeing more and more of that these days. Why? People are living longer. Okay, and I guarantee you, when she was our age, she didn't think she'd be doing that at her age. Okay. Now, John, here are the solutions, okay, that we talk about. Seven steps to your financial future that you need to meet. Okay. Now, we take these 7 steps and we weave them together to help you save money, make money, get out of debt, and tax planning. The result, financial independence the soonest. Okay. Now I'm going to whip through these pretty quickly, but what I'd like you to do is keep in mind which of these have the most impact or priority in your life right now, which are most important to you. Okay, and that way I'll know, put together a certain strategy specific to your needs, okay, to help out. Now, first step we look at is internet portfolio tracking. Okay. What we do is we help you get set up on a game plan, okay, to help you inspect what you expect. Okay, you see, here's what I mean. I was meeting with a business owner recently, and not a big earner, but you know, a good saver. And he broke out his statements, and he didn't know how much was in the account. He didn't know what the interest rate was. And worst of all, he didn't know what the tax implications were if he pulled the money out early. Okay, see, if you want to shave years off your retirement date, you've got to be able to inspect what you expect. Okay, let me promise you this. Let me make you a guarantee. If you pay 10% to a charity like cancer research or tithing or Boy Scouts of America, and then pay yourself 10% before bills and groceries and any other expenses, you will always have money left over at the end of the month. Okay? Step 1 is a foundation builder, and it helps you do just that. All right. Step 2 is increasing cash flow. Now, we define cash flow as what is left over at the end of the month after all the money's come in and all the money's gone out for bills and expenses. Okay. What we do is we help people increase their cash flow, and that gets people's attention. Let me ask you this, John. At the end of the year, are you typically owing taxes, or do you usually expect a refund? Interesting. Well, the other day I was meeting with a gentleman, a client of mine, and asked him the same question. And he said, well, I usually expect $3,500 to $4,000 back at the end of every year. And I said, so what you're telling me is that you're allowing the government to hang on to your money for a little over a year and then give it back to you at 0% interest. And he said, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And you know what? He's right. It doesn't. Okay? So what we do is we help you take that money and put it back into your budget so it's earning money for you and not the government. Okay? And so that's what we do. We teach people to exactly watch what they're spending in their general budget as well, see what they're wasting, and that way we can keep, that can add up to $300 to $600 a month sometimes. So it's a big one, big one. Next area, step 3 is eliminating debt. Okay, and for a lot of folks, this is huge, especially in these times. We have a couple of plans. The first plan we have is the debt eliminator. It's fantastic, and this is an example of an actual client. Okay, this client has a 30-year fixed mortgage, $144,000. They've got an auto loan for $39,000. They've got credit card debt of about $10,000, and then store credit cards of about $1,200. Okay. Now, if they continue paying at their payment plan, the way they've been doing things, they would be debt free in 26.8 years. Okay. Now, following the debt eliminator, if they were making payments, the same payments, same debt, they would be debt free in half that time, 13.1 years. Okay. Now, if they continued to pay themselves after the debt was paid off, if they paid themselves after 26.8 years, they could potentially have up to $500,000 in retirement. Okay, it's pretty fantastic. Very powerful stuff. Now, the other area that we have a specialty in is it involves your mortgage. Okay, so at the end, when I'm gathering some information, if this is something that interests you, we'll definitely look into that as well. Okay, powerful stuff. Fourth area, developing an emergency fund. Now, what I find here is most people don't have one. Okay, so when an emergency happens, out comes the plastic. Okay, so the $1,800 transmission now, 3 to 4 years down the line, becomes a $3,000 to $4,000 transmission. That's killing people. All right, so what we recommend is having an emergency fund with 4 factors. 1, it's got to be safe. 2, got to be liquid. 3, it's got to be getting a higher rate of return than your checking account, and 4, it's got to be separate and systematic. Okay, and here's an example. Have you ever tried to build an emergency fund in a checking account? It doesn't happen, does it? It's free game. It'll be spent. Okay, so what we want to do is make sure that it's put away, it's out of sight, it's out of mind, and in that way, when there's an emergency, you're covered. The money's there. Okay. So this is important. Now, also what we do, and again, this helps people keep their credit card balances at 0, and also prevents them from dipping into their retirement, okay, which will prevent 10% penalties and those sorts of things. So it's simple, it's powerful, it works. Step 5, protecting what you have against loss of life, which leads to loss of income. Okay, this is another big one here. As an example, you've got dad and mom. We've seen it. Dad and mom, 3 to 5 kids. Something happens to dad. Devastating. The sad thing is now you have dad. Dad's gone. And to make things worse, now there's no income. who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to pay the mortgage? Who's going to keep the lights